Okay, so let's talk about one of the most important topics of paper 4 and paper 2, that is simple interest and compound interest. So, those who would be appearing for IGCSE exams would be knowing, if you guys have started off doing the past papers, the very first question in the past papers is basically from this topic. Okay, and the topic is
अस्सलाम वालेकुम मैम।
Walaikum Assalam. Simple?
मैम
Yes.
मैम एक्चुअली मेरी लाइट गई थी तो आई है, लेकिन मेरा इंटरनेट ही चल रहा था तो मैं इसकी अभी डाटा पे समझ सकता है।
ठीक है, ओके, नो प्रॉब्लम, ठीक है। वी हैव जस्ट स्टार्टेड, ठीक है। आई शेयर द रिकॉर्डिंग एज वेल, डोंट वरी,
ओके
एंड प्रोबेबली डेटा पे इशू नहीं होगा, हो जाएगा।
जी मैम, नहीं मसला नहीं है, डेटाबेस नहीं है।
ओके, अच्छा, तो बेसिकली वी आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट ऑफ विद सिंपल एंड कंपाउंड इंटरेस्ट, one of the most important topics. Okay, we need to understand what exactly interest is, then I'll tell you the difference in simple and compound interest, and then we'll talk about some question types. Okay, now what happens is basically, so for example, let's say we have a bank, any bank, okay, and you are depositing some amount in that bank. If that bank offers interest, for example, if you have deposited 1000 rupees or $1000 or 1000 dirhams or 1000 real, whatever, you are going to get some extra amount after some specific period of time. That extra amount is basically interest, and every bank offers a different interest percentage. Some banks say we'll give you 5%, some banks say we'll give you 10%, some banks say we'll give you 20%. Like 20% is a lot, but I'm just talking about some specific banks, right? So now, how exactly we calculate interest and all that, this is something that you guys know already. For example, just listen to me. Let's say there's a bank, and the bank offers 10% interest per year. Okay, this English says bank offers 10% interest per year. What is interest? I've just told you. Interest is that extra amount that the bank gives you in return when you deposit some amount. Okay, every bank does not offer interest. There are some specific banks, and it's your choice if you want interest or not. Okay, so for example, let's say I have $100 and I have deposited this amount. I have deposited this amount in the bank. I've given this amount to the bank. Now, after 1 year, what would happen? I am again going to have $100 in my bank, given that I did not use that amount. Okay, so I deposited $100. After 1 year, I would have $100 plus 10% of $100. Now, what is this called? What is this amount called? This amount is basically your interest. Okay, so what happens? For example, I have deposited 1000 rupees, and after 1 year, I know, since the bank is offering interest, I know after 1 year my amount is going to increase. But how much my amount would increase? This totally depends upon how much percentage or what is the interest rate at that specific bank. Okay, this totally depends on that. Okay, now, obviously, this is simple interest. I'll erase all of this, and we are going to talk about it in comparison with the compound interest. Okay. So let's say I'll just explain this concept parallelly. Okay. So let's say we have simple interest and we have compound interest. Okay. Okay. This is basically bank X, and this bank is offering, let's say it's offering 5% interest. Okay. And this is bank Y, and bank Y is offering again 5% interest. But what is the difference? We have simple and compound interest, and we need to differentiate. Let's talk about simple interest only. So for example, I assume that I have deposit amount is, let's say, $500. Okay, now please pay attention. Deposit is a very simple word. We all know our money is basically in the bank. We deposit money there. So I have deposited $500 at Bank X, and Bank X is offering 5% of simple interest. For now, you only know what simple interest is. Okay. Okay, so after 1 year, I am going to have $500 plus 5% of this amount, okay? Plus 5% of the amount that I have deposited in the beginning. So 5% of $500. Now we know how to calculate this. Just use your calculators. It's 500 plus 5% of 500. These zeros would be cancelled. This is 500 plus 5 multiplied by 5 is 25. And this is going to give you $525. Now look at, you can see in the beginning I had $500, but after 1 year I have $525. Why? Because the bank has given me interest, simple interest. Okay. Acha. Let's talk about what would happen at the end of second year, because that is also important. Okay. And also this interest rate has two things: the interest percentage, that is 5%, 3%, 10%, whatever. In our case it's 5%. And the second thing is, if the interest is being offered monthly, annually, or like yearly, that's the same thing. Or it could be that you are getting the interest after every 2 years, 4 years, after every 6 years. It could be like that, right? We'll talk about questions and then this thing would get clear. But in our case, I am getting 5% of my initial amount after every year. Okay. So second year, and what am I gonna have? Okay, so I would have $525, because this is what I had at the end of the first year, plus 5% of my initial amount, my deposit amount, that is 500. Okay, this is the difference in simple interest and in compound interest. In simple interest, every time I would be calculating the interest rate of the deposit amount, of the initial amount, of the principal amount that I have deposited in the beginning. Okay. However, in compound interest, it would be other way around. So yes, please do your calculations and tell me your answer quickly in 1 minute. 5%. Yes. Just do it. Just take your time and then do it. 5% of 500. Again, this is going to be 25. And now tell me your answers.
Ma'am, 550.
Very good. So it would be $550, and you can clearly see that with time my amount is increasing. Very good. Yes. Any confusions with simple interest, Umaiza, Noor,
No.
Urva?
No confusion.
Feel free to tell me because this is
No, miss.
considered to be a difficult topic. So if anyone has, okay,
No,
very
ma'am,
good,
good.
Umayza, excellent. Well done. Okay. Then my question is, please quickly calculate the total amount I would have at the end of third year. Okay. So now third year, 3 years, and now just calculate that.
Ma'am,
Hmm.
575.
Very well done. Excellent. All of you. Okay. Very good. Very good. So it would be 550 plus the same thing. And this is $575. Very well done. Excellent. This means that we are good at it. Okay. Now let's talk about compound interest. And now you guys will see that the amount for compound interest would be comparatively more. Again, let's say that I have deposited an initial amount of $500. So the deposit amount is $500. After first year, again, I would be having $500 plus 5% of the previous amount. Okay, 5% of the previous amount. So 5% of the previous amount is this one, because this is the very first year and the previous amount was whatever I deposited. And this is going to be $525. So far it's just same like the simple interest. Okay, but I'll tell you the difference right now. For the second year, my total amount after adding the compound interest is going to be the last amount, that is 525 plus 5% of the previous amount. This is not my previous amount. Okay. In case of simple interest, every time we need to consider the deposited amount, the initial amount. But for compound interest, I would be referring to the previous amount again and again, and that is 525. So after 1 year, I have 525. That is basically 500 plus 5% of the previous amount. And in case of first year, previous amount was whatever I'd have deposited in the bank. But for the second year, I would have 525 plus 5% of the previous amount, and this is going to give me 525 plus 5% of 525. Use your calculators and tell me the answer.
Ma'am, 551.25.
Okay, I'll tell you, Maiza, just give me 1 minute. I'll tell you. Let me just see if you guys are doing it correctly or not. So it is going to be, yes, very good. Umaiza, your amount is correct. Muiz, your amount is correct. Taha, your amount is correct. Okay. So it is going to be $551. Okay. Umaiza, please type your question again. I was not able to understand. This is going to be the amount after the second year. Now we can see it was 550 for the second year in case of simple interest, but it is 551 in case of compound interest. Yes, I'll tell you the difference. For now, Maiza, I'm still not able to get your question. I don't think it's related to this. It's something different. So I think I'll answer that later on. If it's a mathematical question, type that again. Or otherwise, I'll get back to you later on. Okay. Acha. Okay. Now, one of the students is basically asking that what is the difference in both the amounts. Okay. Now, in case of simple interest, every time I would be having this amount plus 5% of the deposit amount, 5% of the deposit amount, 5% of the deposit amount. However, in case of compound interest, I would be having 5% of the previous amount. 5% of the previous amount. And now when I will calculate it for the third year, you will again see it's 551 plus 5% of this amount. So 5% of 551, and now I will just do it directly. Five percent multiplied by 551 plus 551 is going to give you 578.6 okay. So yes, you are right, Taha, it's 578.55 basically. So I've rounded it off to first decimal place. Yes, Urva, is it okay? Are you able to understand the difference now? The difference is basically coming at this point, okay? I'm doing 5% of the previous amount. We have 551, 525, and 500. However, here every time, this is 5% of 500, 5% of 500, 5% of 500. So in simple interest, every time the interest amount is going to be same, but for compound interest, it's going to be different. Yes, Urva, is it fine now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, so we would basically take the answer of the previous year and put it in the next year, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay,
Whatever you were writing here as well, you can also think about it this way. So we
okay,
have 500 here and then 500 here, 525 here and then 525. And this is only happening in case of compound interest. Okay. Now, we need to talk about some specific questions and then things would get even better. Okay. So before talking about the past paper questions, I would be using some examples just so we are able to understand the concept. Okay. Now let's say we have this. Okay. It's question number 1. So it says, Jane deposits an amount of $5,000 in a bank at 10% simple interest for 4 years. Find, part A, the total amount of interest earned in 4 years. Okay, let's understand the question and then we will talk about the solution. Before understanding the question, obviously, we will find it apparently difficult. Okay, now it says Jane deposits an amount of $5,000. Now, this is your initial amount, your deposit amount, whatever you want to call it. Okay, acha. Just wait and listen to me first. Okay. In a bank of 10% simple interest, now they have specifically mentioned the interest rate. This is basically your interest rate. And they've also mentioned that this bank is offering simple interest and not compound interest. Very good, Umaiza. Excellent. You're 100% correct. This is how we are going to do it. Very well done. Okay. And what is the time duration? for 4 years. Now we know that obviously for 1 year it would be different, for 2 years it would be different. You need to find the total amount of interest earned. Taha, just make sure that you are only supposed to write down the interest amount and not the total amount. Okay, so we know that it's simple interest, so it would be 10% of the initial amount or the deposit amount, that is $5,000. So I can write it as 10 divided by 100, because 10% means 10 divided by 100 and off means multiplication. So 0, 0, 0, 0 would be cancelled, and this is going to give you $500. This is only for the first year. Now we know that the interest amount is same every year for simple interest. How do we know that? We know that through this discussion we did in the beginning. This was the interest amount. This was the interest amount, that was 25, and this was the interest amount, that was 25. So every time it was fixed, because in case of simple interest we are using the deposit amount and then finding the interest. So this is 500 at the end of first year. So after 4 years it is going to be 500 for the first one, 500 for the second one, 500 for the third one, and 500 for the fourth one, and this is going to give you $2,000. The question was only about finding the interest rate, not the total amount. Okay, very good, Taha, excellent. And then the second part says, find her final bank balance at the end of 4 years. Yes, students, make it quick. Taha has already answered that. Just type your answers. I'm just writing down the question here. Find the total bank balance. So it was 5,000 in the beginning and this much was the interest. So just do your working and tell me quickly. Okay, I got 2 answers so far. Very good, Moiz and Reba. Excellent. I think everyone can do this. I would want all of you to answer this. Noor, Urva, Kabir. I think everyone can answer this. It's not difficult. 2,000 is the interest amount. 5,000 was the initial amount. So you need to add the two in order to find the total bank balance. Very good, Umaiza and Noor. So it would be 2,000 plus 5,000. And this is going to give you $7,000. Very well done. Excellent. Okay. Okay, this question is done. And this is how the first question type is. So this time around, the examiner would give you the initial amount, the interest rate, the time, and you would have to find the final amount. Okay, let's talk about another question, or let's see if you guys can do this question or not. Question number 2, and it says, John invests $600 in a bank at 20% simple interest for 8 months. Find the interest earned in 8 months. Now this is a bit different, so I'll help you with this. Yes, that's right, Kabir. Okay. Now, John invests $600 in a bank at 20% simple interest. Always remember, for you guys, for the O-level students, it is known that the interest rate is annual. Okay, so this 20% is basically the interest after 1 year, after 12 months. Okay, 12 months ke baad you would get 20% of the initial amount, that is 600. Invests means that he has deposited $600 at the bank. Okay. Okay. For 8 months, find the interest earned in 8 months. Now it is a bit different. Yes, very well done, Umayza. Excellent. You are right. This is how we're gonna do it. Very good. Okay. So what is happening now? We know this thing that we all have studied percentages. Okay. And we know that if we talk about the interest rate and the time duration, so it is 20% for 12 months. First of all, I need to find out the interest rate for 8 months. I know the other time duration, that there's 8 months, but I'm not sure about this thing. So I need to cross multiply. This is how we play with ratios. We have done that already. And this is going to be 20% multiplied by 8 equals X% multiplied by 12. X% is basically going to be my interest rate. Now 20% of 8 is 20% multiplied by 8 equals 12x%. And this is 0 and 0 would be cancelled. This would give me 16 divided by 10 equals 12x%. And let me simplify further. So it is going to be 16 divided by, I'll take this 12 on the side, and it would become 120 equals x%. And let's just calculate the percentage. .13 equals x %. I'll take that 100 on that side, and this would give me x is equal to 13%. This means that the interest rate for 8 months is going to be 13%. So I need to find 13% of the amount. Acha, okay. Now I'll tell you one thing. This is basically giving me 78. 78 is approximately the correct answer, but not exactly, because this percentage was 16 divided by 120 was giving me 0.133333333 like that. Okay, so if I find the answer this way, yes, now it is going to give me the correct answer. Once again only, I'll explain this again, don't worry. 16 divided by 120 would give you 0.1333 continuously. So x is equal to 13.333%. Now if you just write 13.333 divided by 100 multiplied by 600, this is going to give you 80 point something approximately, right? Now, what have we done in this question? Please look at that. And we also have another method of doing it, but let's talk about this one first. This time around, we have the initial amount, we have the time duration, We have the interest rate, but the time duration is a bit technical. Always remember your interest rate is annual. You would get 20% of 600 after 1 year. So what percent of 600 would you get after 8 months? Okay, just make such statements in your mind and then you would get to understand that. Okay, so I was able to make these ratios, and in order to simplify them, I cross multiplied. This gave me 20% into 8. This gave me X percent into 12. Finally, I got X percent equals to 16 divided by 120. And if you use your calculators, you would get 0.1333333 and so on and so forth. X percent means X divided by 100. I've taken this 100 on that side, and this is giving me 13.33333333%. Okay, so the best thing is that just use your calculator directly. When you will do 16 divided by 120, just multiply that by 100 and use that figure directly in order to compute your answer. Now,
Ma'am,
when
you
you
can also,
Mhm.
ma'am, you can also divide 20 by 12 and then multiply the value with 8.
Yes, I get your point. I get your point. You obviously you can do that as well. Like, this is maths, and obviously the methods could be different, but the final thing has to be same. Okay, as long as you are getting 13.333% as your percentage, or it could be this way as well. Let's talk about that. Now here I've taken the ratio between interest rate and time. I could have done this way as well. Interest amount ratio time. Okay. First of all, my question is, what is going to be the interest amount after 12 months? Please tell me quickly. 20% of 600 is? Yes.
120.
Very good. What is 120? 120 is basically
The interest
20%
rate.
of 600. It is the interest amount. Okay. So it would be $120 after 12 months. What would be the amount after 8 months? Okay, so we could have used this ratio as well. Okay, and through this, you are going to get 120 multiplied by 8 divided by 12 equals X, and this is going to give you $80. So this method is also correct, and the method that I've done above is also correct, right? Both methods are similar. For the first one, we have used interest rate and time. For the second one, I've used interest amount and time. Okay, any confusions with this? Please tell me quickly.
No, ma'am.
No confusions.
Kabir, Hassan, Umaiza, Urva, please tell me honestly if you have anything that you need to ask. Yes, we still have time. You can ask me if you have anything. Any questions, Hassan? Okay. All right, okay. I'll explain this again. Don't worry. This, Acha, are you clear with this method? Are you clear with this one, Umaiza? Okay. For the first method, we used interest rate and time as the ratios. Okay. And for the second one, I've used the interest amount and time. So I know that the interest rate is 20%, that is annual, that is for 12 months, and the initial amount was 600. So first of all, I am going to calculate 20% of 600, that would be 20% of 600, and this is going to give me 120. This 120 is basically the interest amount I would have in my bank after 12 months. Okay, but what would be the interest amount after 8 months? That is X. I'm not sure about that, so I've just cross multiplied the two. I've made X the subject, and that has given me $80. So $80 is going to be the interest amount after 8 months. Yes, is it okay now? Yes, please confirm if it's okay or not, because you know when we will talk about past paper questions, then you guys might find those difficult, because this topic is comparatively difficult. Yes, so Maisa, is it okay? Okay, all right. Now, so far we have discussed the first question type, where we had the initial amount, we had the interest rate, and we were supposed to find the final amount. Okay, now another question type is basically when your starting amount is missing and you need to find the starting amount. You have the final amount, you have the interest rate, and you need to find the initial amount. That is the second question type, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. And then we will obviously talk about compound interest as well. Okay, compound interest has just one formula that we would be using every time, and you guys would be able to answer the questions. Okay, all right. So this part is done. Let me stop the recording.